இன்னைக்கு நமக்காக பேசுறதுக்கு ஸ்பெஷலாக கேசவ் ஸ்ரீனிவாசனும் வந்திருக்காரு. அவரை பற்றி ஒரு சின்ன இன்ட்ரோடக்ஷன் கொடுத்துருக்காரு. வந்து மோக்ஷ தர்சனம் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அதாவது எல்லாம் நமக்கு தெரியறதோ தெரியலையோ நம்மளோட லைஃபோட அப்ஜெக்டிவ் வந்து இறைவனை போய் அடையிறது தான். சில பேருக்கு படித்து தெரிஞ்சுட்டு இருக்கலாம், சில பேருக்கு தெரியாமல் இருக்கலாம். பட் எல்லாரும் அவரவர்களோட கர்மாவை தொலைச்சிட்டு அதை நோக்கி தான் போயிட்டு இருக்கோம். அந்த மோக்ஷம் லிபரேஷன் சொல்றாங்க, அதை பத்தின ஒரு அவேர்னஸ் மக்களுக்கு கொடுக்கணும் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்காக மோக்ஷ தர்சனம் அப்படிங்கிற நேம்ல ஒரு வாட்ஸ்அப் குரூப் கிரியேட் பண்ணி எல்லாம் நம்மளோட ஸ்கிரிப்சர்ஸ் எல்லாம் எடுத்து சொல்ல ஆரம்பித்தோம். இங்கே நிறைய பேர் மோட்ச தர்சனம் குரூப்பில் ஆரம்பத்துலேருந்து இருக்கிறவாள்லாம் அவங்களுக்குலாம் தெரியும். ஆல்ரெடி ஒரு 25 செஷன் முடிஞ்சிடுது. எவ்ரி மந்த் ஒரு செஷன் கண்டக்ட் பண்ணுவோம். 25 செஷன் முடிஞ்சிடுச்சு. திஸ் இஸ் 26th செஷன். அண்ட் ஹரிகேஷ் சார் ஆரம்பத்துலேருந்தே வந்து நிறைய உபன்யாசம்லாம் கொடுத்துட்டு இருக்கார் மோட்ச தர்சனம் குரூப்பில். சத்யநாராயணன் சார் அண்ட் ஃபேமிலி, சதீஷ் சார் அண்ட் ஃபேமிலி எல்லாரும் வந்து ஆரம்பத்துலேருந்தே சப்போர்ட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கா. பேசுறத கேட்கறதுக்கும் ஆள் இருந்தால் தான் நம்ம பேச முடியும், எடுத்து சொல்ல முடியும். நாங்கள் முதல்ல சிட்டியில் கண்டக்ட் பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தோம். ஒருத்தர் ஆற்றுல ஒரு ஏரியாவில் கண்டக்ட் பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தோம். பட் கொஞ்சம் எங்கள் மோட்ச தர்சனம் குரூப்பில் இருக்கிறவங்க கொஞ்சம் கம்மியாக இருந்ததுனால வெளியே போய் பப்ளிக்கை ரீச் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு எங்கேயாவது கோயிலில் வைக்கலான்னு யோசிக்கும் போது பட்டர் சுவாமி இங்கே தாராளமாக நடத்திக்கோங்கன்னு இடம் கொடுத்தார். அவர் அடியனோட குரு. எனக்கு வேதம் பிரபந்தம் எல்லாமே அவர் தான் கற்றுக் கொடுக்குறார். சதீஷ் அடியனோட அப்பா எல்லாரும் அவர்கிட்ட தான் கற்றுக்குறோம். அதனால இது 26வது செஷன். விஷ்ணு புராணம் பல செஷனாக ஹரிகேஷ் சார் ப்ரெசென்ட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காரு. அதோட கண்டினியூவேஷன் தான் இன்னைக்கு பார்த்தேன். அடியனும் ராமாயணம் ப்ரெசென்ட் பண்ண போகிறேன். அதுக்கு முன்னாடி இவர் கேசவ் ஸ்ரீனிவாசன் எனக்கு எப்படி தெரியும் அப்படின்னா, அவர் வந்து வாட்ஸ்அப் ஃப்ரெண்டு. வேலுகுடி கிருஷ்ணன் சுவாமி வந்து தர்ம சந்தேகான்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஒரு ஃபோரம் வச்சுட்டு இருக்காரு. அதில் வந்து கேள்வியெல்லாம் கேட்கலாம், அவர் பதில் சொல்லுவார். அதில் அடியன் வந்து ஏதோ போட்டுட்டு இந்த மாதிரி ஒரு வாட்ஸ்அப் நம்பர் இருக்குது அப்படின்னு கொடுக்க போக அவர் அடியனை அப்ரோச் பண்ணி இந்த மாதிரி ஐம் இன்ட்ரெஸ்டட், வாட்ஸ்அப்பில் ஜாயின் பண்ணுறேன் அப்படின்னா வாட்ஸ்அப்பில் சேர்த்துட்டு ஃப்ரெண்ட் ஆனோம். அதுக்கப்புறம் அவர் வந்து ஹிந்துயிசம் ஸ்டாக் எக்ஸ்சேஞ்ச் அப்படின்லாம் பார்த்துருக்கேன். நிறைய வெப்சைட்லாம் வந்து அதெல்லாம் வந்து நிறைய இம்பார்ட்டன்ட் மெசேஜஸ் இதெல்லாம் ஸ்கிரிப்சர்ஸ் எல்லாம் அவரும் ஸ்ப்ரெட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காரு அந்த ஹிந்துயிசம் ஸ்டாக் எக்ஸ்சேஞ்ச் மூலமாக. ஹீஸ் இன் யூஎஸ். ஆக்சுவலாக 40 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடியே அங்கே போய் செட்டில் ஆகிட்டாங்க. இங்கே வெக்கேஷனுக்கு வந்திருக்கார். அந்த டைமில் சத்சங்கம் அட்டன் பண்ணுறேன்னு சொல்லும்போது நீங்களும் பேசணும் அப்படின்னா, ஏன்னா நான் பர்சனலாக அவரை பார்த்த வரைக்கும் நிறைய விஷயம் அவர்கிட்ட நான் தெரிஞ்சுட்டு இருக்கேன். இஸ் ரியலி நாலேஜபிள். ஸோ இங்கே வரும்பொழுது எல்லாரோட பெனிஃபிட்டுக்காகவும் ஏதாவது பேசணும் அப்படின்னு அடியன் கேட்டுருந்தேன். பேசுகிறேன்னு சொல்லியிருக்கார். ஒரு தமிழ் அவருக்கு புரியும், ஆனால் பேசுறது வந்து ஆங்கிலத்தில் பேசுவார். ஏதாவது சந்தேகம் இருந்தால் கேட்கலாம் அவர்கிட்ட தாராளமாக. பட்டர் சுவாமிக்கும் எல்லாரையும் இவ்வளோ நாள் மோட்ச தர்சனத்தை நடத்துறதுக்கு சப்போர்ட் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கிற உபன்யாசகர்கள், அட்டண்டீஸ், அப்புறம் இன்னைக்கு பேச வந்திருக்கிற ஸ்ரீ கேசவ் ஸ்ரீனிவாசன் எல்லாருக்கும் நன்றியை தெரிவிச்சுக்கிறேன். அவர்கிட்ட கொடுத்துருக்கேன்.
लक्ष्मीनाथ समागम्बां नादयामन मध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मयुग्म व्यामोहदस्तितत्तद्कराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयेकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये. श्रीमान् वेङ्कटनाथार्य कवितार्किककेसरी वेदान्ताचार्यवर्यो मे सन्निधत्तां सदा हृदि. श्रीशैलेशदयापात्रं दीभक्त्यादिगुणार्णवं यतीन्द्रप्रवणं वन्दे रम्यजामातरां मुनिम्. Hi, my name is Keshav Srinivasan. I am from the US, as Srinivasan Ganesh just said. And this is my first time giving an upanyasam, so bear with me. So today I'd like to talk about the subject of Sharanagati. Sharanagati is a very important thing that a lot of people don't know about. And I'd like to start off by saying Buddhism, Bauddha Madam, it has a lot of discrepancies with Hinduism. But there is one area where it is Correct. That area is one of those four noble truths that Buddha has spoken about, that life has suffering in it. There is suffering in life. I'm sure all of you know this. There are many different kinds of suffering in life. There is adhyatmika suffering, that is internal suffering, both suffering bodily ailments and also mental suffering, mental displeasure, that is there. Then there is adhibautika suffering, that is suffering, external suffering, suffering from external sources. So for instance, threats from wild animals can attack us at any time, and also tame animals. You might be wondering what a tame animal is. Well, you all are tame animals, humans. All humans pose a threat to other humans. That is also a source of suffering. Then, in addition to adhyatmika suffering and adhibautika suffering, there is also adhideivika suffering, supernatural suffering. You might be wondering what supernatural suffering is. Supernatural suffering, you might have heard in insurance contracts, acts of God. They will say in any insurance policy, you have a home insurance policy, any ordinary problems that happen to your home, they'll take care of it. Then suddenly when a tsunami comes, your home is completely destroyed, they say we won't even pay a penny. What, you won't pay a penny? Yeah, we won't pay a penny because that is an act of God. So those supernatural acts, tsunamis, earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, those kinds of things that are caused by supernatural forces, those are also a source of suffering. That is what is called adhideivika suffering. So we have all these kinds of suffering. So naturally, humans seek happiness. We want to be free from this suffering. I don't need to tell you that humans seek happiness. I'm sure all of you want to be happy. But the question is, what kind of happiness do you want? If you want to buy a TV, you can't just go to the store and say, I want a TV. You have to say, I want an HD TV. I want a 26-inch TV. I want a 40-inch TV. You can't simply say, I want a TV. Just like there are different kinds of TVs, there are different kinds of happiness. There is aihikam, that is one kind of happiness. That is happiness on earth, happiness in this life. That is what most people are on. First of all, it is temporary. You are hungry, you eat food. That gets rid of that hunger. So you say, oh, food is a great way to destroy suffering. I'm hungry, I eat food, I no longer suffer. But then what happens a few hours later? Again you become hungry. That food was not a permanent solution to that hunger. Again you will become hungry. All the kinds of happiness that you achieve in this world, ultimately they will come to an end. Sometimes that end could be very long. Sometimes that happiness could last for years and years and years. But remember, humans only live so long. You live for 100 years, 120 years, then that happiness on earth is over. So fundamentally, happiness on earth is flawed. So then you might be wondering, what other happiness is there? Well, there is another kind of happiness, better than this one, called amushmika. That is happiness in Swarga. Now, that is the kind of thing that you might have heard Jews, Christians, Muslims, they always talk about, oh, you do good deeds and then when you die, you go to heaven. So similarly, even in our Sampradayam, there is this idea, you do good deeds, you do kamya karmas, you do yagnas, you do charity, all of that. Then when you die, you will go to a good place, you will go to Swarga. And so a lot of people might be eager, oh, Swarga sounds like a nice place. I've seen in so many Doordarshan serials, Indra and Agni and all of them, they seem to be living in some happy place. That seems like a good place to go to, and it is indeed a happy place. In fact, it is superior to Aihikam in one sense. Aihikam, it is not only temporary, it is also mixed with sorrow. While you are happy in one way, you are sad in another way. Anytime on earth, you are hungry, you eat food, okay, that suffering from hunger goes away, but what about financial suffering? That eating the food didn't cure the financial suffering. It only cures that one specific type of suffering. So, in Aihikam, it is always happiness mixed with sorrow. That amushmikam is better than that. That amushmikam is better than that in that it is happiness unmixed with suffering. So you might think that is great. That is the kind of happiness that I want. But that happiness also is flawed. How is it flawed? Because it too is temporary. Even if you do 100 Ashwamedha yajnas, you might think, oh, I'll do all these Ashwamedha yajnas. You do 100 Ashwamedha yajnas, you will become the next Indra. You might think, wow, Indra is the king of Swarga. That is the pinnacle of happiness. I should strive for that. But even that is temporary. Indra only lasts for one Manvantara. Now, Manvantara is a very long amount of time. But after that Manvantara is over, Indra himself has to be reborn on earth. He will become a human just like the rest of us. In fact, one of you might have been Indra in the past. You don't even know. So even becoming Indra is ultimately futile. That happiness is also flawed. Happiness on earth is flawed. Aihikam is flawed. Happiness in Swargam, Amushnikam, that is also flawed. Then what kind of happiness should you actually strive for? There is a third kind of happiness. That is called Nishrayasam, happiness in moksha. That happiness is both unmixed with sorrow. Just like in Swarga, that is unmixed with sorrow. Moksha is also unmixed with sorrow. But it has one advantage over Swarga, which is that happiness is, you will never return to this whole cycle of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, rebirth, over and over again. You will stay in moksha forever. So in that way, Nishrayasam is the best kind of happiness you can have. Now the natural question is, okay, Nishrayasam, happiness in moksha, that is the best thing to be had. Okay, how do I get this moksha? I am here, how do I go there to Paramapada, the abode of moksha? Well, there are two ways to go there. The first way is called Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is what is spoken of in countless scriptures. Take the Upanishads, take the Brahma Sutras, take the Bhagavad Gita. It is spread far and wide, this path called Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is, now you might be wondering, oh, Bhakti Yoga, that seems like a simple way to get moksha. I have lots of Bhakti, I go to all these Divya Deshams, and I'm also enrolled in yoga class. So I have Bhakti and I have yoga. But that is not what Bhakti Yoga is. Bhakti Yoga is a path to moksha that uses Bhakti. But it's not simply having Bhakti alone will not get you moksha. It is a path that uses Bhakti to get to moksha. And that is an extraordinarily difficult path. First of all, not even everyone, not even in this room, is eligible to do Bhakti Yoga. How do I immediately tell you? Because I see women in this room. Bhakti Yoga can only be done by males. And that too, it can only be done by Dvija males. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. That is already one limitation of Bhakti Yoga. And even if you are eligible to do Bhakti Yoga, it is extraordinarily difficult to do. Even if you wanted to start doing Bhakti Yoga today, you would not be able to start doing it today. Because there are multiple prerequisites before you get to Bhakti Yoga. They are angas of Bhakti Yoga, accessories. Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Karma Yoga involves doing Nitya Karmas. That is, actions that must be done every day or else you incur sin. Things like Sandhya Vandana. Things like if you are Vaidika, then you might do Agnihotra. All those things, those are Nitya Karmas. If you don't do them even for one day, you incur sin. Then there is Naimitika Karmas. They, just like Nitya Karmas, if you don't do them, you will incur sin. But they are not done every day. They might be done once every week, once every month, twice every month. They are Naimitika. They are done on a regular basis. They are not done every day. And then there are Kamya Karmas. That is, actions which, if you don't do them, that's perfectly fine. You won't incur any sin at all. You won't be punished by Srinarayana in any way. However, there is one thing, but if you do them, you will get something good out of it. What will you get good? You will get some material fruit out of it. You will get money, If you don't have a child, you can get a child out of it. You do the right Kamya Karma. You can even go to Swarga. There are so many things you can do, so many fruits you can get with the appropriate yajna. I already mentioned if you do 100 Ashwamedha yajnas, you can become the next Indra, the king of Swarga. Or if you only do one Ashwamedha yajna, you will at least go to Swarga. You won't be its king. You will be an ordinary resident of Swarga. So there are all these Kamya Karmas. But in Dharma Yoga, that thing I said that is an Anga of Bhakti Yoga, without the intention of getting that fruit, you must say that fruit should go to Sriman Narayana only. I am doing this Kamya Karma as a form of service to Sriman Narayana. That is Karma Yoga. Nitya Karmas, Naimitika Karmas and Kamya Karmas. And then even if you do all that, you become this expert Karma Yogi, then will you get moksha? No, still you won't get moksha. Then you have to do Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga means meditation on the Jivatma, the individual soul. The soul is neither the body, nor the mind, nor the senses. It's something that is impossible even to describe adequately. It is infinitesimal in size. They say Anutvam, which is often translated as atomic. You can't even see it with the eye or think about it with the mind, but still you have to think about and meditate on its attributes. You have to continuously meditate on the attributes of your own Atma for years on end. Then will you get moksha? No, still you won't get moksha. You've done Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, still you won't get moksha. Now at least you've become eligible to do this Bhakti Yoga. But then Bhakti Yoga is itself incredibly difficult because you must meditate on 32 Brahma Vidyas found in the Upanishads. You must constantly be meditating on those Brahma Vidyas. And then slowly your mind will move into higher states. They're called Hara Bhakti, Haranyana, Parama Bhakti. There are all these states that you will reach. And then you might be wondering, oh, I have reached all this Hara Bhakti, Paranyana, Parama Bhakti. Then I'll immediately get moksha, right? No, sorry, still no. Then, because this Bhakti Yoga, this thing that is supposed to get you moksha, it gets you moksha, but it gets you there very slowly. Why? Because this Bhakti Yoga only destroys your Sanchita karmas. There are two kinds of karmas. Every time you do any kind of action, I drop my phone like this, I have done an action. That karma that of this action becomes associated with me. Sooner or later, I will have to get either rewarded or punished for that action. Each karma that we have done is stored with us. And we have had infinitely many births going infinitely far back in time. So we have had infinite karmas accumulated over this time. What does Bhakti Yoga do? It destroys the Sanchita karma but not the Prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma are the karmas that have been scheduled to bear fruit at a specific time. Sriman Narayana has scheduled, oh, this karma, he killed a dog today, he will have to, let's say, be reborn as a dog and himself be killed by someone else. And he has scheduled it, it will be exactly 2 births from now that you will experience this. If that is scheduled, then that is called a Prarabdha karma. It's a karma that has already begun to operate. There are other karmas called Sanchita karmas. All the karmas that you have stored up over all these infinite births, they are sitting there, they have not been scheduled yet. What does this Bhakti Yoga do? This Bhakti Yoga destroys the Sanchita karmas, the unscheduled karmas, but it leaves these Prarabdha karmas intact. So think of an analogy. Consider a bank. You owe so much money to a bank. They have said, okay, you have to pay us 1,000 rupees this month. You've taken some 2 crore loan from the bank. So you pay 1,000 rupees this month, 1,000 rupees the next month, 1,000 rupees the month after that. You ask the bank, okay, but how much do I need to pay in January of 2030? The year 2030, in January, how much do I need to pay? the bank guy will look at you and say, I don't know yet. 2030, it's not even 2020 yet. You are asking me what your monthly payment will be in 2030. I'm sorry, we have not planned it out yet. I can tell you this month, the next month, the month after that, you will have to pay us 1,000 rupees. If you have not paid off the loan by 2030, at that time I will tell you, maybe 1 year before that, I will tell you how much you have to pay in January of 2030. And so there are scheduled payments you have to make, unscheduled. Now let us suppose you save the bank manager's life. A bus is about to run him over and you save him, you push him out of the way. He is so grateful to you. He tells you, okay, I will forgive this big debt, this crore that you have borrowed, this 2 crores that you have borrowed, I will forgive it. However, just these 3 payments can you make. I've already scheduled, you have to make one payment, 1,000 rupees this month, 1,000 rupees the next month, 1,000 rupees the month after that. Just these 3 payments can you make, because we've scheduled them, we've already planned that you will be giving us this money, we've already made plans what we're going to do with that 3,000 rupees. Just these payments can you make, the rest of the payments we will completely forgive. That is what is going on with Bhakti Yoga. All that Sanchita Karma, the unscheduled payments, they are all destroyed. Those scheduled payments, however, those you still have to experience. And those Prarabdha karmas, they could last 1 birth. So, as soon as this body is done, you can attain moksha. But they could also last for 10 births, or they could last for 100 births. Who knows what Sriman Narayana has planned for you? If he has made plans for the next 100 births, then you will have to experience those 100 births. Then subsequent to that, the Sanchita Karma is wiped out. So after those 100 births, at least you will attain moksha. But you still need to experience those 100 births. So even if you do all this difficult stuff, still it may take an enormous amount of time to finally attain moksha using Bhakti Yoga. So now I hope if you've listened to all this, I'm guessing you probably don't want to do Bhakti Yoga. You probably are overwhelmed. How will I ever do this Bhakti Yoga? If I am even eligible to do this Bhakti Yoga, how will I ever do it? How will I ever wait so long for moksha? Let me tell you this, you are not the first person in human history to feel overwhelmed by Bhakti Yoga. 5,000 years ago, there was someone else who was similarly overwhelmed, Arjuna. In the time when Krishna was telling the Bhagavad Gita, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, you know Arjuna was feeling sad. And he was feeling sad, I have to kill all these relatives and all that. Krishna made him feel better saying, don't worry, those are just your relatives' bodies. You cannot destroy their souls. So you are not really killing their relatives. So do your dharma. Don't consider this person as your relative. That person is not your relative. That at least made Arjuna feel happy. So that is called Krishna's first Shoka Nivartaka Vakyam. That is, it is his first statement that alleviated. Then Krishna again, as he talked further in the Bhagavad Gita, he said there are 2 kinds of people. There are people with Deva Guna and there are people with Asura Guna. And immediately Arjuna again felt sad. Oh no, am I one of those people who have Asura Guna? And then Krishna reassured him, don't worry, from birth itself you have always been a person only with Deva Guna. So again Arjuna felt at ease. This was Krishna's second Shoka Nivartaka Vakyam. Then Krishna talked further. He said, this is how to get moksha. You need to first do Karma Yoga. Then you have to do Jnana Yoga. Then you have to do Bhakti Yoga. Then your Sanchita Karmas will go away. But your Prarabdha Karmas may take 100 births and then you may get moksha. And Arjuna again feels sad. He's saying, what? Krishna, how will I ever be able to do this massive undertaking called Bhakti Yoga? Am I even qualified to do it? And even if I'm qualified to do it, how will I do it for so long? And will I ever get moksha even after 100 births? So Krishna, for the third and final time, he gave a Shoka Nivartaka Vakyam. It is his most famous Shoka Nivartaka Vakyam. It is called the Chagama Slokam. That Chagama Slokam is highly revered in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradayam, and it goes like this. Sarva dharman pavityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami masuchaha. What it means is abandoning all dharmas, and that word dharma needs to be clarified, I'll do that in a minute, but abandoning all dharmas, surrender to me alone. I will deliver you from all sins, do not fear. Now again I told you I will clarify what dharma means. Dharma does not mean duties. Krishna is not telling you, abandon all your duties, you don't need to do duties anymore, just surrender to me and you will get moksha. Krishna is not at all saying that. Dharma here means upayam. It means the route, the means to get moksha. Give up all efforts to get moksha on your own. That is, give up all this karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. Give it all up and just surrender to me. I will deliver you from all sins. Do not fear. So that is what Krishna said. That is the sloka that tells the essence of Sharanagati. So now the natural question is, how do you perform Sharanagati and what Sharanagati is? What happens when you do Sharanagati and how do you live your life after Sharanagati? Krishna has described all of that in this one sloka. This one sloka has three parts. That Sarva Dharman Pavityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja is called the Adhikari Kritya. That is, what is to be done by the Adhikari, the one qualified to do Sharanagati, the one seeking moksha, what is to be done by him. That is called the Adhikari Kritya. Then next, Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo. That is the Sharanya Kritya. That is the Sharanya, the one whom we do Sharanagati to. That is Sriman Narayana. What does he do? When we do Sharanagati to him, what does that Sharanya, that one who we do Sharanagati to, what does he do in return? And finally, there is the Krita Krityotara Kritya. That is, the one who has done what he should do. That is, that I told you that Adhikari Kritya. What should a person do? Sharanagati. Once the person has done Sharanagati, he has done what he is supposed to do, then what should he do? That is called the Krita Krityotara Kritya. So let me briefly explain all three. So first, the Adhikari Kritya. That is what a person should do. Well, the thing a person should do, Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. They should surrender to me very simply with this analogy. Suppose it's in the middle of the night, you're living in some dangerous part of Chennai and there are some robbers that are chasing you. It's the middle of the night. You're being chased by robbers. You're this weak and helpless person. You can't really fight off the robbers. You can't defend yourself. They have these big sharp knives. They're ready to kill you. You're running away from them and you don't know what to do. Suddenly, you see this big strong man. He is standing there. He is powerful, he is strong, and he has compassion. He has mercy. He is able to help you and he is willing to help you. And you are helpless and you are not going to everyone and asking them for help. You are not every person you see in the middle of the night in Chennai, you are not going, can you help me, can you help me? Just one person alone, the strong person who has compassion, you are going to him alone and you say the following words to him. Help, these robbers are after me. I will do whatever you want. If you don't want me to do something, I won't do it. I am completely helpless. I am asking you to protect me and I have faith that you will protect me. If you say these words to the strong person with compassion, what will he do? I think your common sense will tell you what he will do. He will protect you from these robbers. Why will he do that? Because he is strong. He is able to protect you from the robbers and he is compassionate, he is merciful. He feels sorry for you and so he will help you. So if you say that to him, he will help you. What do we learn from this? Well, this is the essence of Sharanagati. Sharanagati has two adhikaras, two qualifications, Akinchanyam and Ananyagatitvam. Akinchanyam is helplessness. You cannot get moksha on your own. You are helpless. You cannot do this bhakti yoga. Second of all, Ananyagatitvam. You are not going to every source of refuge. You are not going to Vishnu one day, you are not going to Shiva the next day, you are not going to Ganesha the next day, you are not asking all of them, please give me moksha, please give me moksha. You are going, Mam Ekam Sharanam Praja, surrender to me alone. You are going only to Sriman Narayana. You are going to no one else and you are asking him, please give me moksha. So, Akinchanyam, helplessness, Ananyagatitvam, lack of other refuge. Anyagati, gati is refuge, destination. Anyagati means other destination. Ananyagati means no other destination. You have Akinchanyam and Ananyagatitvam. Those are the adhikarams to do Sharanagati. You are eligible to do Sharanagati. What does Sriman Narayana have? What qualities does he have that makes him fit for you to do Sharanagati? He has Shakti and he has Karunya. Shakti, he has energy, strength, power. He has the ability to help you. Of course, he has the ability to help you. He has the ability to do anything. He is all powerful. He is omnipotent because he is the supreme Parabrahma. So he definitely has the Shakti. Second of all, Karunya. He is compassionate. He is merciful. And that too we know. He is a veritable ocean of compassion. Karunya Sagara. That is how he is. He is a fitting person to do Sharanagati too. So, the two qualities that you need to have are Akinchanyam and Ananyagatitvam. The two qualities he needs to have are Shakti and Karunya. Okay, suppose you have the qualities you need, and we know Sriman Narayana, whether you have the qualities you need or not, he will always have Shakti and Karunya. There is no doubt about that. So you have the qualities you need, he has the qualities he needs. Okay, then what happens? Then do you get moksha? Not so fast. Sharanagati is easier than Bhakti Yoga, but there's still something you need to do. Sharanagati has 5 ankas. And I described all of those ankas in the words you say to this big strong man who's protecting you from robbers. First of all, there is Anukulya Sankalpam, a desire to do that which is pleasing to Sriman Narayana. Remember I said, I will do whatever you want. So, you have a desire to do that which is pleasing to Sriman Narayana. Well, what is pleasing to Sriman Narayana? Well, I don't know whether any of you has talked to Sriman Narayana. I haven't talked to him lately at least. So, how do we find out what he wants, what is pleasing to him? Thankfully, we have Shastra. As Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, Shruti Smriti Mamai Vakya. The Vedas and also all Smriti scriptures, they are only my words. So, by reading the Shruti and the Smriti, we come to know what he wants. And what is he pleased by? He is pleased by Kainkaryam, that is service to him. And so that service can take many forms. It can take the form of rituals, it can take the form of dhyanam, it can take the form of even serving Bhagavatas. Not only serving him, he likes if you serve Bhagavatas, that is Vaishnavas, devotees. He cares more about his devotees than he even cares about himself. So, service, Kainkaryam to Sriman Narayana is what he is pleased by. So that is Anukulya Sankalpa, desire to do that which is pleasing to Sriman Narayana. Then the next thing, what did I say? If there is something you don't like, I won't do that. That is called Pratikulya Varjanam. Desire to avoid all which is not pleasing to Sriman Narayana. What is he displeased by? Again, if you've talked to him, please let me know what he said. Otherwise, Shastra tells us what he is displeased by. He is displeased by sin. What is sinful? Well, lots of things are sinful. There are things that all religions agree are sinful. Don't kill people, don't lie, don't steal, all of those things. And also there are things specifically Sanatana Dharma says that are sinful. Don't eat onion, don't eat garlic, don't eat meat, don't drink alcohol. All of that is also sinful. And then also Sriman Narayana, he wants ekantika bhakti, exclusive devotion to him. So don't worship Anya Devatas, don't worship Shiva, Ganesha. That doesn't mean Sri Vaishnavas are disrespectful to other devas. We have extraordinary respect for Shiva. As the Bhagavatam itself says, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. Among Vaishnavas, Shiva is the greatest. There is no problem with Shiva. The only thing is, when you are married to someone, you show exclusive devotion to him. Sharanagati is like a marriage. So you should not worship other devas. You can worship Lakshmi. You can worship Vishwaksena, Garuda, Adiseshan. You can worship Srimanarayana's avatars. You can worship Rama, Krishna, Narasimha. You can worship all of them. The only thing is, don't worship Anya Devas. So that is also falls under Pratikulya Varchana, a desire to avoid all that which is displeasing to Sriman Narayana. Then what is the next thing that I told you to say to that guy, that strong guy? I said, I am completely helpless. That is called Karpanyam, helplessness. So that is another anga of Sharanagati. You are helpless, unable to get moksha. You are expressing, I can't get moksha, so get moksha for me. The next one, I told you, you say, please protect me. That is called Bhoptritva Varana, request for protection. That is also an anga of Sharanagati. You are humbly asking, please protect me from the suffering of samsara and give me moksha. And finally, the fifth anga is called Mahavishwasam. Remember, the last thing you should say to that strong guy is, I have faith that you will protect me. That is what Mahavishwasam is. Great faith. Extraordinary faith that this Sharanagati will yield moksha. You might be wondering, what if I don't have this Mahavishwasam? That's completely fine. If you don't yet have this Mahavishwasam, you can have Manda Vishwasam for now. That is, you can only have a small amount of faith now. That is perfectly fine. Once you do Sharanagati, Sriman Narayana will gradually change your heart so that eventually that Manda Vishwasam will grow into Mahavishwasam. That is also fine. But the anga is Mahavishwasam. So those are the 5 angas. That is all I told you to tell to the big strong guy. But is that enough to get you moksha? Not quite. There is one more thing. That big strong guy, you weren't asking him for moksha. You were just asking him to save you from those robbers. You didn't need to ask for anything else. You didn't need to do anything else. But in this case, you are asking for something specific. You are asking for moksha. What is moksha? Moksha is attaining Sriman Narayana, going to his abode of Paramapadam, living with him forever, enjoying him, having Brahmanubhavam, experience of Brahman, experience of Sriman Narayana, and doing Nitya Kainkaryam to him, doing eternal service to Sriman Narayana. You are asking, it's a different thing than simply asking, save me from that robbers. It's something more analogous to a marriage proposal. You are asking, please take me. You are asking for something different than please give me protection from the robbers or please give me money. You are asking, please take me. That additional thing, for Sharanagati, for moksha, you need one more element other than these 5 angas. You need one angi. Angi means that which has these angas, these accessories. That one angi is called Atma Nikshepam. Atma Nikshepam means the offering of the self, offering of the Atma. You are giving up your own soul to Sriman Narayana and say, the soul is now in your hands. That is the one angi. So there are 5 Angas and 1 Angi. That is what makes up Sharanagati. And so now you might be wondering, oh, this is a very nice philosophy. I'll write it in my notes and I'll keep it in mind. But how do I actually do Sharanagati? You're just telling all this theory. How do I actually do it? Well, the Sri Vaishnava Sampradayam is split into Tenkalai and Vadakalai. And they perform Sharanagati slightly differently. Tenkalais do one ritual called Samashrayanam. Vadakalais also do Samashrayanam, but they do one more ritual called Bharanyasam. So you either have to do Samashrayanam or you have to do both Samashrayanam and Bharanyasam. So now what is Samashrayanam? What is Bharanyasam? Samashrayanam is also known as Pancha Samskaram. It is 5 rituals and it is the Diksha ritual. It's the initiation ritual into the Sri Vaishnava Sampradayam. If you are a Muslim or if you are an Advaitin or if you are a Gaudiya Vaishnava or you are a Madhva, you want to become a Sri Vaishnava, you need to do Samashrayanam. It is the initiation ritual into Sri Vaishnava, and as I said, it's called Pancha Samskara. It has 5 parts. First of all, there is Tapam, that is heat. This is the most famous part of Samashrayanam. You take these hot metal brands with the symbols of the Sangha and the Chakram, the conch and the discus of Vishnu, and you put them on your shoulders. Your shoulders are branded with those symbols with hot metal brands. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it will hurt a bit. I'm told that it won't hurt too much, but it will hurt a bit. But what is a little pain in exchange for moksha? Eternal happiness. You've endured all the suffering for countless births. You need to endure one more second of suffering to get those 2 symbols on your shoulders, and then you will have eternal happiness. So 1 second of suffering and infinite time of happiness. I don't know about you, but at least I know some math. I think infinity is a bit larger than 1. So I think that it's a pretty good deal. You endure these hot metal brands for a second. It's not even that much pain. The metal brands won't even be that hot. They will be very small metal brands. But you will have the symbols of Sangha and Chakra on your shoulders, specifically on your upper arms, close to your shoulders. And that signifies that you are now a servant of Sriman Narayana. That is the first samskara. Then there is mantra. You are taught 3 secret mantras. You're taught 3 secret mantras. The Ashtakshari mantra. Okay. So you're taught 3 secret mantras called the Rahasya Trayam. They are the Ashtakshari mantra, the Dvaya mantra, and the Charama Slokam. Those 3 mantras, you are given Diksha, initiation into those 3 mantras. If you are given initiation into any mantra, you need to chant it every day. So you are taught these mantras and then you are instructed to chant them every day. So that is one of the samskaras. The next samskara is called Namam. You are given a Sri Vaishnava name, a Dasya Namam. A name that signifies that you are not only a servant of Sriman Narayana, but that you are a Ramanuja Dasan. You are a servant of Ramanuja Acharya. He has so many names. He is the greatest of all Sri Vaishnava Acharyas. You are a servant not only of Sriman Narayana, but you are a servant of that line of Acharyas, including this Ramanujacharya. So that is one of the samskaras. Then there is Pundram. the Urdhva Pundra, that is the Tigaman, is applied to 12 places on your body. Each with one of the Keshava namas. You might have heard them, Keshava, Madhava, Govinda, all of those names. With those mantras, those Urdhva Pundras are applied to your body. So that is the fourth samskaram of the ceremony. And finally, you are taught Ijjai. Ijjai means Tigavaradhana. Worship of Sriman Narayana. You are taught how to properly perform puja of Sriman Narayana. With those 5 samskarams, that is called Samashrayanam. If you do that, you become a Sri Vaishnava. According to Tengalis, if you do that, if you have that Acharya Sambandham, that connection to that Acharya who did that Samashrayanam for you, that connection to Ramanujacharya, that entire lineage of Acharyas going all the way back to Sriman Narayana, that itself is good enough to get you moksha. However, Vadagalas have a different view. Vadagalas think it's not enough to merely do the Samashrayanam. You must actually do Sharanagati. You must do an actual ritual in which you surrender to Sriman Narayana. And that ritual is called Bharanyasam. There are 4 ways to do Bharanyasam. Svanishtai, Uktinishtai, Acharyanishtai and Bhagavatanishtai. Svanishtai means saying the mantras for Sharanagati by yourself without the help of an Acharya. Almost no one in human history has ever done it. I'll tell you one person who has done it. Bhagavad Ramanujacharya, he did it 1000 years ago. He said the mantras for Sharanagati all on his own. That was on a day called Pankuni Uttagam. He spontaneously composed the Gadya Trayam, the Sharanagati Gadyam, the Sriranga Gadyam, and the Vaikuntha Gadyam, and he surrendered to Sriman Narayana. He didn't take the help of his Acharya Periyanambi. Other than Bhagavad Ramanujacharya, very few people in human history have ever done Svanishtai because it's extraordinarily difficult. It requires meditating on the Dvaya Mantram 800,000 times first. So it's impractical for ordinary people. So then there is Ukti Nishtai. The Acharya recites the mantras for Sharanagati. You just have to repeat them. I'm sure you've all seen this in weddings. The priest will say the mantra, then the groom keeps repeating the mantra. He might not know any of the mantras. The priest knows the mantra. The priest will say, the groom just needs to repeat. It's like an insurance policy. Because the groom might accidentally, he might misspeak. But the priest has said it correctly. That priest saying it, that itself is good enough. So any words that the groom leaves out, the priest has said, so the marriage will be success. Similarly, in Ukti Nishtai, because the Acharya has said the mantras first, even if you mispronounce them, you will still get. Then there is Acharya Nishtai. Similar to Ukti Nishtai, the Acharya says the mantras. But in Acharya Nishtai, you don't even repeat the mantras. In fact, you are not even in the same room as the Acharya. The Acharya will be in one place saying the mantras on your behalf. You will be somewhere else not saying anything. He will perform Sharanagati for you. That is also a valid way. That is called Acharya Nishtai. And then there is another way to do Sharanagati. It's called Bhagavata Nishtai. Suppose you are somewhere in the world where you don't even have access to a Sri Vaishnava Acharya. Let's say you're in Finland somewhere. There is no Sri Vaishnava Acharyas. You don't have the money to go to India. What in the world do you do to do Sharanagati? Well, thankfully, you might find that there is someone in Finland. They have at least done this Samashrayanam and this Bharanyasam. So you can at least go to them and ask them to say the mantras on your behalf. So it's like Acharya Nishtai, except with the Bhagavata. With some other Vaishnava who is not an Acharya, they will say the mantras on your behalf and you don't say anything. That's called Bhagavata Nishtai. Just like Svanishtai has not been done for hundreds of years, Bhagavata Nishtha is very rare. It's only in these extraordinary circumstances, for some reason or another, you cannot get hold of an Acharya, you need to do it with some Bhagavata. That's very rare. The two common ways to do it are Ukti Nishtha and Acharya Nishtha. But, so that is called Bhaganyasam. So there are these two rituals, Samashrayanam and Bhaganyasam. As I said, Tengala's thing, if you just do Samashrayanam, you will get moksha. Vadagala's thing, you need to do both Samashrayanam and Bhaganyasam. Who is right? Well, my dad is a Tengale, my mom is a Vadagale. So, it's not like, so I am kind of a neutral party here. I am undecided on whether Bhaganyasam is necessary or it's not necessary. So I can't tell you whether you should do Bhaganyasam or not. I can't tell you whether it's necessary or not. What I can tell you though is that if you want to be safe, if Tengala is a guide and you do Samashrayanam without doing Bhaganyasam, then you will get moksha. But if Vadagala is a guide, you do Samashrayanam without Bhaganyasam, you won't get moksha. So, whereas if you do both Samashrayanam and Bhaganyasam, the Tengala will say, hey, he did Samashrayanam, he will get moksha. The Vadagala will say, you did both Samashrayanam and Bhaganyasam, you will get moksha. So, if there is a slightest doubt in your mind whether Bhaganyasam is necessary or it's not necessary, I suggest you go to a Vadagala, you do both Samashrayanam and Bhaganyasam, and then you will be guaranteed moksha regardless of whether you talk to any Tengala or any Vadagala. That's my advice to you. So that is what Sharanagati is. That is, remember the Chagama Sloka is where we started. That is Adhikari Kritya. That is what you need to do. What is Sharanya Kritya? What will Sriman Narayana do if you've done all this? You've done the 5 Angas, the 1 Angi, you've done Samashrayanam, you've done Bhaganyasam. You've done all of this, what will he do? Is this all just some game, you just do all these things for fun? No. There is actually something you get out of it. He, in exchange for all this, just like in Bhakti Yoga, he will destroy all your Sanchita karmas. So you might be wondering, oh no, my Sanchita karmas will be destroyed, but my Prarabdha karmas will remain intact like Bhakti Yoga. Will I live birth after birth, take 100 births? No, there is a difference. Sanchita karmas will be destroyed and also some of your Prarabdha karmas will be destroyed. Specifically, all the Prarabdha karmas that are scheduled to take fruit in future births, they will all be destroyed. Only the Prarabdha karmas, those alone will remain intact. So you can continue to live your life. Don't think when you do Sharanagati within a year or something you will die. There are some people who have that fear. They do Samashrayanam and then they are afraid to do Bhaganyasam. Oh, I don't want to do Bhaganyasam. I have kids, I have a wife. What will happen if I suddenly go? No, don't worry. Sharanagati won't do anything to your life. What all that will happen is the Prarabdha karmas in future births will be destroyed. So you live your normal, natural length of life, and then afterwards, as soon as you die, you attain moksha. That is what Sriman Narayana will do for you if you do this thing for him, which is Sharanagati. Again, the main thing that you might be a bit concerned about is those 2 dots, those 2 little marks you will have to put, heated marks. 1 second of pain, which is not even that bad. And you will have to do Bhaganyasam, which is just saying a few words. It's not a very big deal. You will just have to surrender to Sriman Narayana. He will take care of the rest. He will destroy your Sanchita karmas and he will give you moksha as soon as you depart this body. So that is the Sharanya Kritya. That is what he will do for you. So now let's say, okay, I have done this Adhikari Kritya. I have done Sharanagati. And now he has promised he will do this Sharanya Kritya. When I die, he will give me moksha. Now I am a Kritya Krityan. I have done what I am supposed to do. Now, what do I do after this? I've already done what I had to do. Now what do I do between now and the time I die? That is what is called Krita Krityotara Kritya. So that Adhikari Kritya is covered by the word Sarva Dharmantagityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. Then the Sharanya Kritya is covered by the words Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo. I will destroy all your sins. Of course, not immediately. Sanchita will be destroyed first. You will experience the leftover prarabdha in this life and then you will attain moksha. So all your sins will be destroyed. That is what Krishna promised. Finally, there is the Krita Krityotara Kritya. What should you do after you have done Sharanagati? Well, that is what is covered by the words Ma Suchaha. Do not fear. Do not worry. So that is the main thing. From the time you do Sharanagati until you die, you don't need to worry anymore. Will I get moksha? Won't I get moksha? Forget about it. You will get moksha. You are in His hands now. He will make sure you get moksha. So does that mean, you might naturally ask, human nature being what it is, oh, now I can just do anything, right? He is going to give me moksha no matter what. So can I just go around drinking alcohol, doing whatever I want? The answer is no. You should still remember what you promised him. Anukulya sankalpam, pratikulya varjana. Desire to do that which is pleasing to Sriman Narayana. Desire to avoid all that which is displeasing to Sriman Narayana. You have made that promise. In exchange, he has guaranteed you moksha. Now it is time for you to keep up your end of the bargain. So you should spend your life only doing that which is pleasing to him and avoiding that which is displeasing to him. So Ramanujacharya, so how would you spend your life after Sharanagati pleasing him? What is the way to do it? That is the question. Ramanujacharya was about to depart the earth. His Shishyas asked him this question. He was about to depart the earth. They were wondering, please don't go. Without you, what do we do? How do we spend our lives now that we have done Sharanagati? And Ramanujacharya, he gave 5 descriptions. 5 ways you can spend your life after Sharanagati. The first way is, if you are qualified to do it, study the Sri Bhashyam and spread its meaning far and wide. If you are not qualified, the Sri Bhashyam is Ramanujacharya's commentary on the Brahma Sutras. The Brahma Sutras is Vedantam. I don't know, many people I have tried to explain even basic concepts to Vedantam, they find it difficult. Vedantam is difficult for ordinary people. A lot of people, if they read the Sri Bhashyam, it will only have one effect, they'll get a good night's sleep. First page they'll read it, then they'll go to sleep. So, Sri Bhashyam is not very practical to for a Prapanna to do. Most Prapannas, if you are qualified to do it, by all means do it. Most people, they are not qualified to do it. The next thing, if you are not qualified to do Sri Bhashyam, study the Nalayaka Divya Prabandham, the Alvar Pasakams, and spread their meaning far and wide. That will also help people get moksha. But what if Tamil is not your first language? Tamil is not. Tamil might have been my first language, but it's been a long time since I've spoken Tamil. So I can't really read the Divya Prabandham in their natural language and understand it. So that's another problem. What if you're not qualified to even study the Nalayaka Divya Prabandham and spread their meaning? Well, the next thing you can do is you can serve in a temple. This is as good a temple as any to serve in. So you can go serve in some temple. You can light lamps. You can weave garlands. You can do all that kind of service. That is also fitting service that will please Sriman Narayana. What if you can't even do that? Again, what if you're in Finland? You don't even have any temples near you. Now all of you, you don't have this excuse. You're in Tamil Nadu. There is temples. If you walk 2 feet, you will see a temple. But there, in some places, there may not be temples. What do you do if you can't even serve in a temple? You can just sit anywhere you are and you can meditate on this Dvaya Mantra. This Dvaya Mantram that you are taught in Samashrayanam, just sit and meditate on its meaning. But of course, a lot of people, they can't even meditate. Their mind gets distracted in 1,000 different ways. They can't even understand what this meaning of this complicated thing called Dvayam is. To understand the Dvayam, you need to read all these works. If you are a Tengalai, you need to read Pillai Lokacharya's Mumukshupadi. If you are a Vadagalai, you need to read the Srimad Rahasya Traya Saga. I've tried to explain to people the meanings of the Dvayam according to these two books. Trust me, it's just as unsuccessful as trying to explain the Sri Bhashyam to them. So that also is not practical for a lot of people. Meditation on the meaning of the Dvayam. So Ramanuja says, okay, if you are not qualified for any of these, I'll tell you what you are qualified for. Go find some Bhagavata, some Vaishnava, some devotee of Sriman Narayana, spend your life with him, serving him. Just do whatever he needs you to do, just serve him all your life. That itself is a fitting way to spend your life as a Prapanna. And so that is how you should spend your life. And again, what should you avoid doing? Pratikulya Varjana, no meat, no eggs, no onion, no garlic, no worship of Anya Devatas. Again, Shiva, Parivaga Devatas, his avatars, etc. But his Parivaga Devatas you cannot worship. And daily recitation of the three Rahasya Traya mantras. So every day you should recite each of those three secret mantras that you learned when you did Samashrena. That is basically how you need to live your life. So then once you, and now you might be wondering, okay, what if I occasionally slip up? Humans aren't perfect. Occasionally, what if you do eat onion, even by mistake you eat some dish, you find out later it contains some onion, or you intentionally, you go to some restaurant with your friends push you, come on, it's just one day, why don't you just eat some onion, you eat some onion. What will happen? You violated this Pratipulya Varjana. Does that mean you won't get moksha? No, because Anupulya Sankalpam, Pratipulya Varjanam are about intentions, desires. At the time of Sharanagati, Sharanagati is a Kshana Kala Karyam. It is over in one Kshana. That's an ancient Indian unit of time. It's a tiny fraction of a second. You do that Sharanagati, it is done. At that time you needed to have the desire to only do that which is pleasing to Sriman Narayana and a desire to avoid all that which is displeasing. That is already done. Sharanagati is done. So that commission of a sin will not cancel your moksha. You will still attain moksha. But does that mean you can freely commit sins now? Not so fast. There are still consequences for your sins. Punishment. Just ordinarily, when you do a good deed you get rewarded, and when you do a bad deed you get punished. Since you are not going to have future births, usually that reward or punishment could come in this birth, it could come next birth, it could come 1,000 births from now. But you are not going to be in samsara 1,000 births from now. You are not even going to be in samsara for the next birth. So what will Sriman Narayana do? You can't outsmart him. What he will do is he will schedule the rewards and punishments so that they fit in this very birth. And then you might be wondering, the key is, now I know how to commit sins. I can commit so many sins such that I can commit a sin very close to the end of my life. Then he cannot punish me. You might think even that, but he can outsmart you even there. Vedanta Desikan says he can even extend your life. You think your life will only be this short? He will extend it. You think, I'm only going to live until the age of 90. So until the day before my 90th birthday, I'll commit lots of sins. Guess what? He will extend your life to 95, to 100. And then he will give you the punishment for those sins. You cannot escape. So, if you commit sins after Sharanagati, you will incur the punishment in this very life itself. So don't think that Sharanagati is an escape hatch. After you do Sharanagati, you can do whatever you want. You still have to abide by all rules of Dharma and Adharma. You still need to do all your Nitya and Naimitika karmas. You still need to do all of that. The only thing is you are guaranteed moksha. You are not guaranteed that you won't be punished in this life. So you should still be a good person and all of that. So that's a very important point. And then you might be wondering, is there nothing at all that can cancel Sharanagati? not quite. There are two things that have the potential to cancel Sharanagati. So avoid these things at all costs, because Sriman Narayana has given you the biggest gift that anyone can ever give you at all costs. Anya Devata Sambandham. Again, worship of Anya Devatas. That has the potential to cancel your moksha. Because remember the two qualifications for Sharanagati. Akinchanyam and Ananya Gatitvam. Not going to other gods, only going to Sriman Narayana. Mam ekam Sharanam Kracha. So if you violate that, that has the potential to cancel your moksha. Second of all, Bhagavata Apacharam. More dear to Sriman Narayana than himself. If you insult him, he'll take it. Anything you do, any sin you do, if you don't do Sandhya Vandanam the one day, that will be an insult to him. He will take that insult. He may give you a punishment in this life, but ultimately he'll give you moksha only. He will tolerate all of that. What he will not tolerate is offenses against Bhagavatas. He loves Bhagavatas, his devotees, more than he even loves himself. So at all costs, don't commit offenses against Bhagavatas. Now, I said, now you might be wondering, oh no, I've already done Sharanagati and I think I might have insulted some Bhagavata today. Is my moksha cancelled? Well, don't worry you should be a bit worried, but don't worry too much. First of all, it can be remedied. If you've insulted some Bhagavata, just go to them, ask for their forgiveness. If they forgive you, then your moksha will definitely not be cancelled. In general, if you repent for your sins, you won't receive punishment and your moksha won't be cancelled. And also these two things, they have the potential to cancel your moksha, but that doesn't mean they will always cancel your moksha. But still, because they have the potential to cancel your moksha, and you've been given this infinitely valuable gift called moksha, after Sharanagati, at all costs, don't do these two things. Don't do Anya Devata Sambandham, don't worship other gods, and don't do Bhagavata Pachara. Don't do any offenses against Bhagavatas. Now what will happen once you do all this? You live this happy life, you serve Sriman Narayana in one of these 5 ways, either by reading the Sri Bhashyam or by serving a Bhagavata, one of these ways, and you avoid all these sins. Then what happens at the end of your life? At the end of your life, there is a blood vessel somewhere on the top of your head. Through there, the Jivatma will exit. And then it will travel along a path called the Archiradhi Margam. And it will go straight to Paramapadam. In Paramapadam, you will acquire a form that is exactly like Sriman Narayana. But it won't be made of ordinary matter. Ordinary matter is subject to decay. It will be made of spiritual matter that will never decay, and your body will look exactly like Sriman Narayana. So you will have a Sangha, Chakrama, Gada, Padma. You will look exactly like him in all respects. In fact, in Paramapadam, if you were to go to Paramapadam right now, you would see a bunch of Vishnus walking about. Then how in the world can you tell the real Vishnu apart from the rest? There is one indicator and one indicator alone. On his chest there will be a Srivatsa, a tuft of hair in which Lakshmi dwells. Because even in moksha there is one distinction that Sriman Narayana and he alone has, and that is Sriya Patitvam. That is, he alone is the husband of Mahalakshmi. So that is one respect in which Vishnu will be different from you. But other than that, you will have Brahmanubhavam. You will experience everything that Vishnu experiences. That's called Sayujyam, equality of experiences. And you will experience everything. Because his nature itself is bliss. You will experience infinite bliss, and as an outpouring of the bliss, you will perform Nitya Kainkaryam, eternal service to Sriman Narayana. There won't be any, you're not some forced indentured servant, there won't be someone whipping you, telling you, hey, serve that guy over there. Organically, you will be so overwhelmed with joy and love for Sriman Narayana that on your own, you will go and you will serve Srimad Narayana. And so you will serve Srimad Narayana forever. You will perform Nitya Kankaryam. So, bottom line, I said an awful lot. The main thing that you need to do if you want to get moksha is you need to go to a Sri Vaishnava Acharya. There are many Tengala Acharyas you can go to. You can go to the Vanamamala Madam Jiya. There are many Vadagala Acharyas you can go to. There is the Ahobilam Madam Jiya, the Bhagakala Madam Jiya, Sriranga Mandavan Ashramam, Paudakikapuka Mandavan Ashramam. There are so many Jiyas you can go to. Ahobilam Madam Jiya is actually very accessible, and this is actually the Chaturmasyam period. It's the rainy season when all Jiyas stay put where they are. Jiyas always travel all the time. At this moment, the Ahobilam Madam Jiya is stationed at a very particular place. If you go to the Ahobilam Madam website, you can see that place. But the important thing is you need to go to some Jiya. As I said, if you want to be safe, go to a Padakala Jiya and perform Samashrayanam and Bharanyasam. Now, I'm aware that there are some non-English speaking people in the audience. So, let me just repeat this closing line in Tamil. Moksham Venduma, Samashrayanamum, Bharanyasamum,